So yoga chill tonight. I've personally been doing a lot of these stretches and I want to incorporate them more regularly into Tuesday night, which is our, so getting into our mid lower back. We're sitting a lot. We're in slightly rounded hips curled under, tail tucked positions. We can often end up there just because gravity takes us there. So some of the movements, I call the movements poses, we will hold us in that position for a while and we continuously go a little bit deeper. So if you have any bolsters, blankets, blocks, things that you can prop up on, you might not need much depending on your flexibility, but have them handy because it will be nice rather than leaning always into our hands to actually let your torso absorb some of that energy. But yeah, we'll take the ride together of opening the side body, and the quadratus lumboris is our side body. I posted about it on our story. You can go check out. There's a really great image of this side body stretch. And as I tell most people I share that image with, your pose may not look that they're showing you, of course, the fullest degree, but we're going to work from full tall into the depth of the side body. And then we'll work also into our back body, front body, and hips. See where we end up. See if we can chill out for tonight. Card selection for today is air. And air, like the feather, is bringing thought, alignment, breath, and intention. Having just come through a long weekend of thanks and giving thanks and gratitude, if you take the time daily to write down the things you're grateful for, it does allow your thoughts to be more clear and more consistent. So as you take a comfortable seat here, crossed legs or sitting hips on heels, close your eyes. Sip the breath in fully and sigh it away completely. Sipping all the way from the tail, the base of the spine, through the midsection. There's a subtle wave of energy up through the neck. The head can tilt side to side. And as you exhale, maybe let the chin fall in towards the chest. And as you do that, keep the length and the lift of your heart. So you feel this mild stretch from the tops of the shoulders to the base of the neck. On your next inhalation, steadily releasing the shoulders from the ears and letting the chin just float back up to neutral. There's a quote that I read over the last couple of days and shared today online, which is that our body doesn't take the pose, but we take the pose to access our body. So we balance both sides of that spectrum when we practice asana. Of course, we want to be in alignment for our greatest opportunity. But when we set into the pose, allow the pose to simply be breathed into activation, into the moment. Take your hands to greet at your heart center. Honor yourself for arriving to your mat, for being here, despite all the other things that can take your attention, your awareness, your evening into another facet, that you've made and taken this time to be here fully. Full breath in, full breath out. Bowing your chin, your mind to your body. Releasing the hands just to the fronts of the knees. Pull your heart forward so you're almost sitting more onto the fronts of the sits bones, off the tail. Lift the chin up towards the sky. Take a deep breath in. And the spine as you exhale, so pulling your ribs straight back, using your hands like hooks on your knees or your shins. Tip the chin into the chest. And then inhale, roll shoulders back, lifting up and forward. And as you exhale, round it out. Follow the wave of your breath and your spine. Tapping into the breath of Ujjayi, creating a warming quality to the inner body. Take one more here. Round it out fully. As you come back to a tall seat, if the legs are crossed, switch the cross of the legs. Hands back onto the knees, and staying stationary with the head as best you can, pull your ribs towards the left side, just the rib cage. And then pull your ribs towards the right side. And your ribs over to the left side. You're simply allowing there to be some separation between your hips and your shoulders to your middle body. Now, it might feel tense or tight, and maybe you feel like you're not moving too much, and that's fine. But see if you can invite a little more space into the side, and a little more space to the right side. All this really is bringing an awareness to the amount of movement that might be available today versus yesterday or the days to come. As you come back to center, pull your ribs over towards your left knee, whole body in that direction. You can bring the hands to the floor if that feels more stable, and then shift your ribs across towards your right knee and back up to center. So you can either hold the knees or bring the fingertips around in front, and just doing a little half circle. So you're leaning forward and back up to center. And we're creating some separation between our hips and our lower cervical or lumbar spine. Whichever direction you started in, we're going to reverse that direction, go the other way. So we shift knee over the right knee, come forward, around to the left, and back to center. Where you feel this a lot, maybe back off a little in the reach or the extension. And if you're not really feeling it, see if you can go a little further with your hands walking around from one side to the other. What we want to do is access more space through the mid-body. Come back to center. Now unfurl the legs around in front of you. You can be seated on a prop or a block if you like, legs straight out, toes to the sky. Bend the knees subtly, fingertips behind you on this one. Use a deep breath in to lift up. And then leaning your heart forward in the direction of your knees. Now you can bend the knees as much as you feel needed. The more you bend the knees, the more space you'll create in that mid-lower back. Pressing off the fingers. If you play with the feet here, you can point to create some more length, or pull the toes back to create a lengthening of the hamstrings and a shortening of the fronts of the shins. Somewhere in between a point and a flex is a foot we call a floint, kind of like a foot where you wear a high heel shoe. You're pressing out through the mounds of the feet, but the toes are still pulling back. It's like you're wearing a mini heel or a half heel shoe. The knees are glued together. Close the eyes, draw the breath in fully. Lean in just a little further, so it's more of an active stretch. Think navel to spine as you lengthen your mid-lower back. Bring the hands around in front and walk yourself back up to sitting tall. We'll transition onto our belly from here. So you can either sweep the legs to one side or come right over the ankles and just come right down onto the floor. So we've shifted the spine in lots of directions. Now we want to get it stable at center. Press down through the toenails, lift the knees, tuck the tail subtly. Hug the knees and the thighs towards each other. Your toes can touch or not, but you're squeezing in as if you were holding something between your upper thighs. And then lift your heart just subtly off the floor. The hands can be soft on the mat, just underneath the shoulders. Elbows can pull back or point to the sky. Full breath here, in to lengthen. Exhale to lower, nose taps the mat or forehead. Inhale to lengthen, pull forward. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. So similar to those rounded cat spines we were doing earlier, we're now flexing the opposite direction. Use your inhale to pull shoulders down your back. And your exhale to lengthen and release all the way down to your belly. Full breath in. Full breath out. As you float up, pause where you can maintain that bit of lift and bring the forearms right down onto the floor. Press into your elbows to lift just a subtle bit higher and bring your elbows as if you're trying to pull your elbows to touch your hips. As you create a little bit of a squeeze in your shoulder blades, you might find that a bit challenging. Muscles might even quiver or shake a little. Find the breath. Claw with your fingertips into the mat, just bringing a subtle bit of tension, and bring your chin down towards the chest, not dropping the head fully, but just pulling back so you feel the neck muscles get longer. And then relax everything. Take your right cheek to the mat. Take a full breath in and a sighing breath out. A full breath in and out. Turn the chin forward, point the toes, squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. With that bit of activation, lift your heart to hover. Pause where you just feel that gentle lift. Use the hands, elbows pressed down, pull the elbows back, feel the heart lift to another degree. Claw into the fingers, keep the breath moving. Draw the chin slightly back and in. Feel the neck muscles, the tops of the shoulder blades, really active. And fully release. Take the left cheek down to the floor. Relax the legs. Give the whole torso a little shake side to side. As you bring the chin forward, bring the big toes to touch. Press up and back onto your hands and knees. Widen the knees into a child's pose and slide the hips back onto your heels. Let your torso melt here. Arms be heavy. Let your head go heavy. A subtle bit of movement with the hips from side to side. And you'll feel that little bit of opening of your femur into your hip socket. And coming back up onto hands and knees, we'll walk the knees forward. So you're in the middle of the mat, but the knees are still wide, the big toes still touching. Sitting back onto your heels, into a saddle position. So knees open, fingertips come around behind, lift your hips up, and tuck your tail for your heels. You're taking that just ahead of your heel. The option to stay right here, or the option to lower onto one elbow, maybe the other. Now, if the knees are heavily lifting here, it'll just mean you've gone too far too quick. So you can always come back up to palms. You could always place a bolster under your elbows behind you, and just allow there to be a space for the quadriceps to open. You can close the eyes, relax the teeth away from one another. If it feels okay for the head, you can let it hang back and the throat open. Otherwise, keep the chin in towards the chest. If you subtly press the shins down into the floor, you can increase the stretch. If you release that pressure, you'll feel the quadriceps relax. Choose either an active or passive release, both with its own merits, its own benefits. As you start to come back up, press down through the feet into the knees. Bring the hands around in front of the knees. You'll feel the tail subtly start to slide back. Lift the hips and stretch the legs back one at a time. And if air is bringing us breath, we want the breath to be at the forefront of our movements. It's also bringing us alignment, which for this next pose, we'll bring the knees tight together and open the feet. This alignment's key for our knees to stay healthy. You can use either a block or a blanket or a bolster between your heels. And if you take your thumbs just to the center of your calf muscle and slide down, you'll find the femur fits more easily between the two calf muscles. As you sit back, your hands, I like to take fists and place them into the base of the feet, the soles of the feet, for a little massage. So you can use the knuckles to slide from the heel down the sole into the ball of the feet, and a subtle shifting of your upper body weight from side to side will start to open up the soles. Kind of like kneading bread with your fists. Close the eyes and just allow your mind, body, time and space here to release tension. The feet being a key indicator of tension in the rest of the body. If this is ever a lot in your knees, you just sit on more props, more blocks, bolsters, just be a little higher. Now, if you're starting to find you can stay here, option to start to lean back, keep the knees pressing down into the floor. Knees stay close. You can flip the palms onto your feet and place one elbow down and then the other elbow down. This is a little bit of a back bend, so if you're finding it a lot, lift the hips, tuck the tail forward, and then release the hips back down. Again, you can let the head hang back, throat open. That feels okay. But think about squeezing your shoulder blade, the shoulder points together to keep the heart lifted, the chest open. So 3 more breaths here. Keep the feet active by pulling the toenails down into the floor. As you feel called to come back up, you do agree. And stay a little longer if you choose. Press down through the fronts of the shins. You'll feel an increase in the active stretch or releasing as you relax the fronts of the legs. This pose really great to heal the knees. If knees have been an issue in the past, or maybe you are currently, bring the hands forward, let the tail slide back, lift the hips, and then one foot at a time, stretching back. That fresh flow of oxygenated blood into the lower limbs. All right, let's make our way to a seated position with the legs at least mat distance or wider. Now again, you can sit on the edge of a prop. I like the blanket because it can sometimes just help lift that tail up and forward, so we're more on the fronts of the sits bones. Bending the knees here can be really helpful as well if you feel there's enough flexibility, as long as we're not dropping the lower back. Staying tall, have your bolster close by. Let's start with fingertips. You're pulling your heart forward, maybe working on to palms. What we want to be mindful of here is our mid back, that as we come forward, we tend to mentally want to rush to get onto our forearms. And if we rush there, if we reach around, you'll feel those little dinosaur vertebrae kind of stick out. We want to pull those in so that you feel they disappear into that little cavity in your spine. Once here, soften the shoulders back and let the ribs come forward. Let your breath be really full. If you've got a block, you can tilt it up, arms on the block rather than directly on the floor. And props are an amazing way to give us that access of release. You can stack as many as you choose in a position to allow yourself the opportunity to lean in a little further. When we feel the tension, there's an element of air here that's possible to release. So if we back off, we lift a little, like a bird in flight coming up, and then gently moving through. That's where the intensity sometimes comes in. If it's too intense, the body will react. It'll hold, it'll tighten. So it might be that the legs are too far apart. Bring them a little closer. Perhaps soften behind the knees. Sometimes making fists under your knees is enough to release some of the tension behind the legs. Close the eyes and keep breathing here. Steadily pulling back. You don't have to tense the feet back, but allow there to be a little bit of pulling inward as you gradually soften the outer shell. If that bit of watery quality of the ribs from side to side earlier felt good in your mid-lower back, maybe gently swaying the body left and right to invite and entice the body a little deeper. The magic of the practice, in my experience, is releasing the need to get it right and welcoming the opportunity to move through until we feel that the body is ready to release into or away from tension. Couple more breath here. If you find the feet gradually want to roll open, keep bringing the big toes towards each other, helping to inwardly spiral the upper thighs. Now gradually come back up to a seated position. Move some props out from the inner legs. We'll bend the left knee and take it to the inside of your right thigh, but turn your navel towards your bent knee. As you turn in that direction, there can be a tendency if we turn even further, that right hip wants to lift up. Bring it back down. So go even beyond where you think you should, and then allow that hip to drop back. Stay tall at center here, and let's take first the right arm to the sky. As you take the right arm, turn the palm open, back of the head, let it press gently. Point the elbow to the sky and press down through your left palm, and let your right rib cage open up. As you express that right rib cage a little more open, you're letting the left elbow bend, a little bit of support needed on that side. Not here too long, because we'll come back up through center. Release the back of the right hand to the inside of your right knee. Knee can be bent or straight. Left arm comes up, palm to the back of the head, elbow points to the sky. And slide the back of your hand inside the shin till maybe your forearm comes inside your knee. You might stay right there. If you've got a block, you could also put the block under that forearm for a bit of a resting into. As the left elbow points up, we're now spreading the rib cage on the left side. The depth of this arc is up to you. And we go again, too far, too fast, the body grips and it tightens before we even have an opportunity to release. If you find you tend to do that, back off just a little bit initially, take another breath, and then release into a bit more onto the right arm, the right elbow, the right forearm perhaps. Nice, releasing to come back up through center. Turn to face where the legs open, but keep that bent knee. Fingertips ahead, just like before, hinging forward. This is a subtle shift from having both legs open. A light bend in the knee, even a little prop under that knee can feel really good as you lean into the palms or bring that border or block back around in front and lean into the forearms. Often it's nice to hold the head, so if you can support the head, let the neck and the shoulders relax. And we'll be here for about 5 breaths. They say the weight of our emotions, our experiences is carried in our nervous system. And Yoga Chill is really designed to release the tension of the nervous system. Sometimes we're not even privy to how much our nervous system is firing and overworking, doing, experiencing. The more we close the eyes, the deeper we breathe. Without forced deep breathing, we're just allowing the breath to expand and contract as we soften the harder edges. Take one more breath. Get tall, ears, shoulders come back to stack. Releasing your props. Extend your left leg back out and bring your right foot in. Turn to face your bent knee. Your right hand behind, out to the side. And take a moment like you did on it. Lean a little more into your right hip so you feel the left sitting bone come up. Pull it back down. So you're finding that balance point for yourself. A slight bend in that knee can often help. Take the left arm to the sky, palm open, back of the head pressure, head to hand, and then point the elbow up and arc the left side waist open. Come back up through center, back of the left hand to the inner left knee. Create a subtle bit of pressure to connect. Right arm comes up, back of the head to the hand. And then reaching the elbow to the sky, gradually slide your forearm inside your knee. That might not be very far. And if this position is newer to you, though you may have done it a few times, start to do this every day and you'll really start to experience the ability of your side body to open and release your lower back. But again, if we force, if we push, we go too fast, too soon, the body reacts. The nervous system jumps. It does that in a protective mechanism. But as I say often, the body is smart, but it can be really off center sometimes. And we need to teach it and practice these shifts so that over time they can become a natural progression. And gradually come back up center. Turn to face center. Fingertips out in front to start. A little bend or support under the extended leg knee. So there's a subtle bending in, pulling the hips back, sending your heart forward. Stay upright, 2 pillars, 2 arms, but melt your shoulders back. Close the eyes, crown of the head extending. Bring a little further forward. Perhaps your bolster, your block, any height that's supported. Even if you lean your torso into that block or cushion. Support the head if you need, and take your 5 breath here. Consider that little bit of rocking of the rib cage side to side. Your body molecularly is mostly water. I actually learned today at the molecular level, your body is 98% water. Quite an amazing thought. And that water never moves in a straight line. That water in nature, you have a hard time ever finding a straight line. So don't let your practice be in straight lines. Let there be some movement, some fluid, some flow. Take 2 more breaths here. As you walk your hands back up underneath, sit tall, slide your props out to the sides. Bring both legs around in front. Bend the knees a little and wrap your hands or your forearms underneath your thighs and just let your whole torso melt forward. Again, not worrying about length here, but really focusing on releasing the head, the shoulders, the jaw, The tension even in the feet, the backs of the legs. Two more breaths. Light as air as you float deeper in on the exhalation. And gradually roll back up. And we'll take a variation of a hip and shoulder next together. So this one, the right foot's going to come on top into a half Gomukhasana leg. So your right knee is going to stack on top of the left to the best of your ability here. If you have the flexibility and you'd like to take the left foot under, feel free to walk the left foot under and make sure the sitting bones are anchored. And sometimes if that right sitting bone lifts, just sit up on a little bit of a cushion. That'll give you a bit more space. Now the fingertips can be here, but relax, just helping to remind your spine to be tall. And we'll take the chin neutral, but the ear towards the shoulder. And as your left ear is towards your left shoulder, your right fingertips kind of squeeze into the floor like you're suctioning the floor with that right hand. Close your eyes, and option here for just steady Ujjayi, breath of fire. But something I've found in my experience that helps a lot with opening the neck, the shoulder, and the throat is bumblebee breath. And that breath is just a steady, it's the latter part of the sound of Om. That resonates from the base of the throat, almost sounds really nasally in your sinuses. And if you have the space in your home and it feels okay for you to do that, I do recommend it. We'll take 3 of them here. Full breath in. Another breath. Take the left fingertips to the outside of the head and tilt the head back up to center. When we stretch one side, we don't want to jar that side open again. As you come to center, release the fingertips and take a breath in. And lean your ribs towards your knees. If you've got one knee stacked, great. If you've got 2 knees stacked, great. And as my friend Ryan Lear says, if you understand that, then the yoga is easy. It's not about getting it to the deepest. It's just simply about being aware, being present. You can bring the fingertips around in front, maybe lean in a bit further. These first couple with a length to your spine, the ribs over the thighs. Shoulders melt back. Eventually lean in so far that you allow your upper body and your upper back to melt forward, and perhaps placing the chin, perhaps using a bolster or a block to place your forehead. If all of that's just not there for you today, you can also just let the head fold inward if that feels okay on the neck. As you gradually start to come back up to a seated position, bringing the hands behind you, pull one or both knees up to release the legs around in front. Give them a little shimmy, shake out. And to the other side, left foot on top, left foot walks over to that far right side. You can stay right here with one side, no problem. Otherwise, you can tuck that right foot, not sitting on the foot. Make sure the feet are as wide as they can be. Fingertips anchored, eyes can close. Think the chin is at neutral and your right ear this time towards your right shoulder. A steady breath of Ujjayi is plenty here. If you'd like the bumblebee breath and feel the release that it offers, both for the throat, the jaw, the neck, the collarbones, then join me for 3. Inhale. Turn your right palm open, fingertips to the outer head. Let the hand take the head back to neutral. Ears, shoulders, hips. Releasing the hands, leaning the ribs on the exhale forward towards your knees. That might be millimeters, centimeters, inches. Keep leaning with that length. Bring the fingertips around in front, maybe to palms, maybe to a bolster or a block. Keep leaning in and think length over the thighs and eventually letting that upper back and the shoulders, the head all come forward. If it feels okay to let them hang here, let them hang. Otherwise, a block or fists to support the head. If nothing in nature moves in a straight line, then why do we struggle to do everything in a linear fashion? Our minds are built to seek out danger, problems, things of challenge, and it's our practice that trains it to see the opportunity and to respond rather than react. Stay in the response of your body here. What you feel, respond to it. Maybe it means backing off a little. Perhaps it means releasing in a little further than you once had. The patterns within our bodies are only there because we've created them over time. But we can shift them if we choose to. First, you form your habits, then your habits form you. Gradually start to roll yourself back up to a seated position, eventually leaning the hands back, pulling the knees in, stretching the legs around in front. Give them a little tap out. Place the feet flat onto the floor. Let's roll onto the back and bring either a blanket or a block with you. The option tonight will be waterfall or shoulder stand. If shoulder stand is something you've done before, then you can go if you like. Otherwise, start in your lift with a block or a blanket under your hips. Bring one knee in at a time and the legs straight up to the sky. Staying in waterfall here, just to flush the lymphatic system of the legs. Maybe rotate your femurs in and out. If you head towards a shoulder stand, you can keep the block here, no problem. You're just reaching your feet over your head and lifting the hips off the block and catching them with your hands. You can rock to one side, tuck a shoulder, rock to the other, tuck the shoulder. Definitely not looking around here, keeping the eyes steady up as you reach one leg and then the other to the sky. Even here, you can turn the femurs in and out, just releasing any holding pattern in the legs. If you find you get fatigued here, you can come out at any time just by putting the toes over the head back to plow position and then rolling back into waterfall. But stay in that shoulder stand if it's serving you. Otherwise, keeping the legs lifted. We'll be here for a few minutes. As long as it feels okay, stay with me. Palms open out to the sides, relaxing the upper body. Letting the breath and clearing, like you're draining out the things that no longer serve, the things that are no longer needed. Our judgments, our comparisons, our expectations. We all hold them. They all exist within us. We were raised within them. We've been created within them. And we're in a time in life where these deep comparisons and these deep scars that were created back before you were even born, ancestral scars, bloodlines, and it's up to us now to shift where we choose to. We all have choice, and it's the beauty of being a human being. We choose the next phase, the next decision, the next response. Body here to simply absorb, digest, and shift through the movements and the patterns that may have shifted an energy within you from long ago. Steady breath in, light as air as we breathe out. If you're still in shoulder stand, start to come into plow and back into waterfall. If you're in the water position, really slowly bring your knees into your chest. Gradually bring one foot to the earth and then the other. Slide your prop out from underneath you and let your hips come back to neutral. Placing your left foot at center, knee bent, right knee legs. If you want to hook your toes behind the calf, you're welcome to. Knee or hips to the right, knees to the left. Simply let the body, the torso, drape the left side of your mat as you release the right shoulder open, turning the chin over the right shoulder if you choose, or simply keeping the head at center. It's a wonderful way to express that right side all the way from the shoulder, the front of the chest to the outer hip. As you bring the knees back through center, hips to center, unwrap the legs. Right foot at center, left leg over right. Hook the toes if you choose. Hips to the left, knees gradually fall to the right. Steady breath in, steady breath out. As you bring the knees back through center, hips to center, unwrap the legs and squeeze the knees in. Even lift the chin into the chest and the forehead towards the knees. Resetting the spine to center. Option to simply go right to Shavasana or take any last movements that would be calling your mind body. Just fall open, the head go heavy, and let the jaw relax. Our nervous system is such an intricate system, plays into our whole body and our reactions to our emotional body, our energetic body, the physical body, the physiology in the body. So taking this time to just turn down the heightened sense that we live within can feel really good to the mind body, the energetic body, the physical body. Have you ever had the experience of concentrating on something so intensely that you forgot to breathe? Eventually, your body reaches its limit and you realize consciously or unconsciously that in all of your focus to achieve, you have been denying yourself a fundamental element needed to reach your aim. In an instant, you draw a breath, and with it comes a wave of renewed energy and life force to inspire your endeavor. Air comes to you now with an invitation to open yourself to receive such a wave of energy and inspiration in your life. By taking conscious responsibility for your thoughts as the creative architecture of your world, air calls you into the realm of the mind, with the reminder that thinking is much like breathing. We do it constantly, but often automatically, reactively, with very little conscious attention to how it is impacting our experience. When we bring our attention to our breath, we ignite a positive source of energy that ripples through our entire being. When we consciously, we awaken an invisible power to transform our world. If you are not happy with what you are seeing, then look first to the thoughts and silent meditations that may be contributing to this outcome. Before you run around trying to change what the outside looks like, take time to choose thoughts that will support your true desire. Call upon the element of air, and through your breath, you will awaken new visions and perspective to guide your steps. We are always creating something with our thoughts. What do you choose to create today? What will you breathe into being? Find a quiet place where the air is fresh and clean. Open yourself to the sacred whispers and messages in the wind as it shares its messages with you today. With clarity comes power. Repeating this mantra, Spirit of air, purify my thoughts and intentions to inspire the pathway of my highest visions. I am one with the breath of life. Taking as much time as you need here to rest, to absorb dust, the message within your system. If you feel called to begin to move, draw the breath first. And the fingers and the toes will awaken. Eventually rolling onto your right side and pausing there for a moment. Notice the air on your skin, in your lungs. Let it soften that outer shell. Keeping your eyelids closed, rise up to a seated position when you're ready. Let your hands greet at your heart center. Bowing inward, the mind to the body, in its deepest intention of love and joy and bliss. Perhaps in recognition of your time on the mat tonight to gift yourself a little more joy, love, and bliss. Namaste. Thank you, ladies, as always.